Yoga implies prior division, and it means later union of one thing with another. But who is to be united? And with whom? You are the seeker, seeking union with something. If you assume this, then that something must be apart from you. But yourself is intimate to you, and you are always aware of it. Seek it and be it. Then it will expand as the infinite, and there will be no question of yoga. Whose is a separation? Find out to whom is the separation. That is yoga. Yoga is common to all paths. Yoga is really nothing but ceasing to think that you are different from the self or reality. All the yogas, karma, jnana, bhakti, and raja, are just different paths to suit different natures with different modes of evolution. They are all aimed at getting people out of the long cherished notion that they are different from the self. There is no question of union or yoga in the sense of going and joining something that is somewhere away from us or different from us, because you never were or could be separate from the self. Yoga enjoins repression of thoughts, whereas I prescribe quest of oneself. This latter method is more practicable. The mind is repressed in swoon, or as the effect of fasting. But as soon as the cause is withdrawn, the mind revives. That is, the thoughts begin to flow as before. There are just two ways of controlling the mind. Either seek its source or surrender it to be struck down by the supreme power. Surrender is a recognition of the existence of a higher, overruling power. If the mind refuses to help in seeking the source, let it go and wait for its return. Then turn it inwards. No one succeeds without patient perseverance. Breath control is only an aid for diving deep within oneself. One may as well dive down by controlling the mind. When the mind is controlled, the breath is controlled automatically. One need not attempt breath control. Mind control is enough. Breath control is only recommended for those who cannot control their minds straight away. In the absence of inquiry and devotion, the natural sedative, breath regulation, may be tried. This is known as the path of yoga. If life is imperiled, the whole interest centers round one point: the saving of life. If the breath is held, the mind cannot afford to and does not jump at its pets, being external objects. Thus, there is rest for the mind so long as the breath is held, all attention being turned on breath or its regulation. Other interests are lost. The source of breath is the same as that of the mind. Therefore, the subsistence of either leads effortlessly to the subsistence of the other. fixing their minds on psychic centers, such as the 1,000-petaled lotus chakra. Yogis remain any length of time without awareness of their bodies. As long as this state continues, they appear to be immersed in some kind of joy. But when the mind which has become tranquil emerges and becomes active again, it resumes its worldly thoughts. It is therefore necessary to train it with the help of practices like meditation whenever it becomes externalized. It will then attain a state in which there is neither subsistence nor emergence. Quiescence lasts only so long as the breath is controlled. So it is transient. The goal is clearly not pranayama, breath control. It extends onto withdrawal, concentration of mind, meditation, and samadhi. Those stages deal with control of the mind. Such mind control becomes easier for a person who has earlier practiced pranayama. Pranayama, therefore, leads one to the higher stages. Because these higher stages involve controlling the mind, one can say that mind control is the ultimate aim of yoga. A more advanced person will naturally go direct to control of mind without wasting their time in practicing control of breath. You ask how the 3 phases of pranayama should be regulated: the exhalation, the inhalation, and retention. Completely giving up identification with the body alone is exhalation. Merging within through the inquiry, who am I? Alone is inhalation. Abiding as the one reality, I am that alone is retention. This is the real pranayama. The point is to kill the mind somehow. Those who have not the strength to follow the inquiry method are advised to adopt breath control as a help to control the mind. This pranayama is of two kinds: controlling and regulating the breath, or simply watching the breath. All these methods, sometimes regulated not by counting, but by uttering mantras, are aids to controlling the mind. That is all. Watching the breath is also one form of pranayama. Inhaling, retaining and exhaling is more violent and may be harmful in some cases. For example, when there is no proper guru to guide the seeker at every step and stage. But merely watching the breath is easy and involves no risk. Who does not have Kundalini Shakti? When the real nature of the Shakti is known, it is called unbroken consciousness or effulgence of I. Kundalini Shakti is there for all people, whatever path they follow. It is only a difference in name. Shakti has only one phase. If it is said to manifest itself in several phases, it is only a way of speaking. The Shakti is only one. people whatever path they choose to follow. It is something like this. Suppose there is a hill. There will be many paths to climb it. If the jnani were to ask people to climb by the way they came, some may like it and some may not. If people who do not like it are asked to climb by that path, and by that path only, they will not be able to come up. Hence, a jnani helps people following any particular path, whatever it may be. People who are midway may not know about the merits and demerits of other paths. But one who has climbed to the summit and sits there observing others coming up is able to see all the paths. They will therefore be able to tell people who are coming up to move a little to this side or that, or to avoid a pitfall. The goal is the same for all. Though the yogi may have their methods of breath control for an object, the jnani's method is only that of inquiry. When by this method the mind is merged in the self, the Shakti or Kundalini, which is not apart from the self, rises automatically. The yogis attach the highest importance to sending the Kundalini up to the crown chakra, the brain center, or the 1,000-petaled lotus. They point out the scriptural statement that the life current enters the body through the fontanelle and argue that separation having come about that way, yoga, union, must also be effected in the reverse way. Therefore, they say we must, by yoga practice, gather up the pranas and enter the fontanelle for the consummation of yoga. The jnanis, on the other hand, point out that the yogi assumes the existence of the body and its separateness from the self. Only if this standpoint of separateness is adopted, can the yogi advise effort for reunion by the practice of yoga. In fact, the body is in the mind, which has the brain for its seat. That the brain functions by light borrowed from another source is admitted by the yogis themselves in their Fontenelle theory. The jnani further argues, if the light is borrowed, it must come from its native source. Go to the source direct, and do not depend on borrowed resources. That source is the heart, the self. The self does not come from anywhere else and enter the body through the crown of the head. It is as it is, ever sparkling, ever steady, unmoving and unchanging. The individual confines themselves to the limits of the changeful body or of the mind, which derives its existence from the unchanging self. All that is necessary is to give up this mistaken identity, and that done, the ever-shining self will be seen to be the single, non-dual reality. If one concentrates on the crown chakra, there is no doubt that the ecstasy of samadhi ensues. The vasanas, that is, the latent mental tendencies, are not destroyed, however. The yogi is therefore bound to wake up from the samadhi, because release from bondage has not yet been accomplished. They must still try to eradicate the vasanas inherent in them, so that they cease to disturb the peace of their samadhi. So they pass down from the crown chakra to the heart through what is called the Jiva Nadi, which is only a continuation of the Sushumna, a psychic nerve in the spine. The Sushumna is thus a curve. It starts from the lowest chakra, rises through the spinal cord to the brain, and from there bends down and ends in the heart. When the yogi has reached the heart, the samadhi becomes permanent. Thus we see that the heart is the final center. Let those who advocate the use of hatha yogic practices to banish diseases use them. It has not been the experience here. All diseases will be effectively annihilated by continuous self-inquiry. If you proceed on the notion that health of the body is necessary for health of mind, there will never be an end to the care of the body. You ask if hatha yoga can be accomplished at your older age. Why do you think of all that? Because you think the self is exterior to yourself. You desire it and try for it. But do you not exist all along? Why do you leave yourself and go after something external? The hatha yogis claim to keep the body fit so that the inquiry may be conducted without obstacles. They also say that life must be prolonged so that the inquiry may be carried to a successful end. Furthermore, there are those who use some medicines with that end in view. Their favourite example is that the screen must be perfect before the painting is begun. Yes, but which is the screen and which is the painting? According to them, the body is the screen, and the inquiry into the self is the painting. But is not the body itself a picture on the screen? The self? Even great pundits, well versed in the Vedanta, continue the practice of Hatha Yoga. Otherwise their minds will not subside. So you may say it is useful for those who cannot otherwise still the mind. Many asanas with their effects are mentioned in the Yoga Sastras. The seats of the tiger skin, the grass, etc. The postures are the lotus posture, the easy posture, and so on. Why all these? Only to know oneself. The truth is that from the self, the ego rises up, confuses itself with the body, mistakes the world to be real, and then, covered with egotistic conceit, it thinks wildly and looks for asanas. Such a person does not understand that they themselves are the centre of all and thus form the basis for all. The asana is meant to make them sit firm. Where and how can they remain firm except in their own real state? This is the real asana. Attaining the steadiness of not swerving from the knowledge that the base upon which the whole universe rests is only self, which is the space of true knowledge, the illustrious ground. Alone is the firm and motionless posture for excellent samadhi. You ask what asana Bhagawan is usually seated. In what asana? In the asana of the heart. Wherever it is pleasant, there is my asana. That is called Sukhasana, the asana of happiness. that asana of the heart is peaceful and gives happiness. There is no need for any other asana for those who are seated in that one. The significance of karma yoga means that one should act without thinking that oneself is the actor. Actions will go on even in the egoless state. Each person has come into manifestation for a certain purpose, and that purpose will be accomplished whether they consider themselves to be the actor or not. Karma yoga is that yoga in which the person does not arrogate to himself the function of being the actor. All actions go on automatically. The question of non-attachment or attachment arises only if there is the actor. It is said in all the scriptures that you should not consider yourself to be the actor. So karma yoga is action without the sense of doership. The actorless action. Your realization will definitely help others, and it is the best help that you can possibly render to others. But really, there are no others to be helped. For the realized being sees only the self, just as the goldsmith sees only the gold, while valuing it in various jewels made of gold. When you identify yourself with the body, name and form are there. But when you transcend the body consciousness, the others also disappear. The realized one does not see the world as different from themselves. You claim that it would be better if saints mixed with other people in order to help them. But there are no others to mix with. The self is the only reality. The sage helps the world merely by being the real self. The best way for one to serve the world is to win the egoless state. If you are anxious to help the world, but think that you cannot do so by attaining the egoless state, then surrender to God all the world's problems, along with your own. The power that created you has created the world as well. If it can take care of you, it can similarly take care of the world also. If God has created the world, it is in God's business to look after it. Not yours.